So let's kick this thing off while we're going there.
Go ahead.
Introduce us.
Hi, I'm Dawn.
And I'm John.
And I'm Todd.
There you go.
And this is Mileage May Vary.
Yeah, all the way from the top, not so old, to the really, really young.
Mm-hmm. As young as water, I think you said.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Hey, but we're talking about miles, you know. Todd, how many miles did you come to Texas to be here with us live and in person? That's a lot of miles.
Well, 900 to 1,000 miles. Fortunately, I didn't drive.
Yeah, you got your own plane, brought it, came out here in your own jet. You know, I was going to ask you about fuel mileage on that thing. Is it pretty conservative?
Well, you know, my staff at American Airlines, they do a pretty good job.
They did a really good job.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
you know, I've tried flying other airlines, and I have so many friends that work for American Airlines. I don't fly another one now because I don't want to hear the slack from you. If I do fly another airline, I just keep it hush hush. I don't post nothing. But if I'm on AA, I will talk it up for sure.
But otherwise, I've driven out here once before, and that's a long drive. Mm-hmm. You know, the flight is much simpler. But just got to be more prepared to come out here because we're going hunting. So I got to be more prepared to fly versus to drive out here. So I got to plan accordingly to that.
It's a lot longer to get on the plane, and when you get off the plane, you go through some extra steps because you're carrying a rifle and ammunition. They're all real particular about all that stuff. And then in first class, they serve you a knife, a fork, and a spoon that's stainless steel. And you can't carry your pocket knife on that plane. And the knife they give you in first class is sharper than your pocket knife, more than likely.
Well, so I usually sit in the back. So,
oh, I didn't know.
So,
I bet you sat all the way at the very back seat of the last one on, the last one off, ain't you?
So I get the spork, plastic one.
I love that. You know, we were leaving ASTA one time. My daughter-in-law Jody said, "I want to go home early," so we had to swap flights. Well, that can get me back into first class where I want to be. And I just told that lady, put me at the very back of this airplane.
Yeah, I like being in the back.
It's quieter back there.
It's quieter, and then especially if you don't have any connecting flights.
Exactly.
I'll fly back to Charlotte. And of course, I got in the very back corner. And I let everybody just go, and then that way I grab my bag and out I walk. I'm not in a hurry.
Cool. So that we'll get off into this. Todd. You introduced yourself. Tell us about you. I know, and a bunch of my friends know, but there's going to be people watching for the first time that know Amber real well that don't know who you are and what Todd Compton about.
Well, so
besides that beautiful wife of yours, Trish, we can't not forget to mention her.
No. And
she's down in Cancun, in Mexico right now, warming it up.
Yeah, she didn't want to come to Texas, even though she was born and raised in Texas. She didn't want to come to Texas. But so my history. So I've been a shop owner for 20 years. I've been in the automotive industry probably over 30.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess. When I was a kid, I messed with go-karts, dirt bikes, BMX bikes. And then, once I got into high school, I started going to the automotive program.
Yep.
And it felt natural. Just kind of excelled through that. Then came out of high school, went into the military as a heavy oil mechanic. Came out of that, then I went to Nashville Auto Diesel College.
We needed to pause for a second and say thank you for your service. That was awesome. I appreciate that.
It was actually I signed up. It was during the Gulf War. Well, actually before the Gulf War.
Right.
And which goes back to 1991.
Yeah, we were both young back then.
And I remember seeing the TV, and there were Iraqi kids or young men signing up to fight America, and I was like, two can play at this game.
Amen. Amen.
So at my high school, the first recruiter that I saw, I was like, sign me up. And so now I didn't go to Iraq when I finished my basic training and when I finished my basic training, they called a ceasefire.
Okay.
And, I was actually in a trolley company and Bravo company went, but I did not. So again, they called ceasefire.
You were just one step out of it then.
Correct. And So it was, well, anyway, that's a whole different,
That's a whole nother time in your life. But yeah, thank
so,
you.
So I came back, went to Nashville Diesel College, and then went through that, worked for, I was in Nashville, Tennessee, obviously, worked for a dealership out there. Then came back to Charlotte for a little bit, and then worked for a Pontiac dealership. Then moved out to Colorado. And when I moved out there, I moved out to Colorado because of a Toby Keith song.
Oh boy, what was it?
It was oh gosh,
Beer from my whiskey, beer from my horse.
No. He talks about a movie out west where women in gold. Yeah, it's been so long since I've heard that song, but I was like,
all the gold in California.
Yeah, go out west.
Yeah,
go out west. And yeah, I mean, coming from Nashville, I was on to that big country
so
scene.
many mamas have lost their baby boys because of Texas and Colorado.
Yeah, well, yeah. So my uncle ran a kind of a steel factory out there.
Yeah.
And so he offered me a place to stay and a place to work. And so I moved out there. And so this kind of goes to how I met my wife, and it falls into automotive side. So I didn't have my toolbox. And my mom at the time worked for Delta Airlines.
Okay.
And so I moved out there, and then somehow she worked a deal where Delta actually shipped my toolbox to Colorado.
How cool.
I don't know how she did it. I don't know. But she knew a lot of people.
They load her up and send her on.
Loaded up and sent it out there. And so I worked for that steel factory for a while until got everything settled, and I was out looking for a job. And I remember I went to this one dealership out in I-70 in Colorado, and I didn't get my oil change my car. And so I didn't have any way to do it. So I was like, I need to get it done. So I go to this dealership.
That was that Camaro you told me about.
Yes, that's right. It's a Camaro. And so I go in and I get the oil change done, and I go to the cashier. And so I met
and there she was.
Well, yeah. So I saw this fine young lady there, and of course I'm from North Carolina, and I had a I had a North Carolina driver's license, a Tennessee checkbook, and a Colorado tag, I think, something like that. It was all messed up. I can't remember all the different things.
She had a problem trusting you, didn't she?
Well, I remember when I showed her my ID, she's like, "You're a little far from home, aren't you?" I said, "Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I am." And so anyway, that was all the interaction that we had. And so later on, that dealership was actually one that hired me. And,
wow.
And I finally got on. I mean, I went to a lot of dealerships and tried to get on somewhere.
Right.
And so and what's interesting is when I went there, I got hired on by the service manager. And then then I got my toolbox. He said, bring a tool. They were open basically 6 days a week.
Yeah.
They're open on Saturdays. And so he said, bring your toolbox in Saturday. He didn't tell me a place to put it yet. He said, just bring it in, put it against this wall. We'll get you settled.
We'll figure it out.
Monday. So I'm like, all right, sounds great. So I get the toolbox there, show up Monday. Service manager's not there. I'm like, so I'm walking around, and finally this one guy in a big old suit and tie, he's like, can I help you? I was like, yeah, I'm here to start working. He said, what's your name? I tell him my name. He says, well, we just fired the service manager Friday.
Oh, wow.
He said, I'm the service director. And I'm like, great.
This isn't starting off good, folks.
So I don't think really they were looking for a tech at the time, because they gave me a bay with no lift, and in this big old dealership, and so the only thing the dispatcher could give me was like electrical work.
Yeah.
And coming out of school and being really green, I didn't.
Yeah, let's beat our head against the wall for a while.
So now the way the dealership was set up is you had a service department. It was under one big roof,
right?
And you had a brick wall that separated the service department and body shop. And so at the time, where my toolbox was at was right next to the door that you can go in between either building. And so my wife Trish, she went from cashier to started working for the body shop. Well, she would come out of the body shop door and walk right past my toolbox every single day. And so I remember I would be working in a car, and I'd turn around and I'd see like a little chocolate or something in my toolbox. Where's that coming from?
She's working away to that heart.
Yeah. And so, I was dumb, and so I remember.
You was focused on working on cars. You weren't working on women.
Well, I was focused on surviving.
Yeah.
I mean, at the time, so this was around 94 or 95.
Yeah.
And so we would get paid bi-weekly. And I remember I was excited, when I took a $600 paycheck home, for 2 weeks.
I can pay some bills. I can get caught up. I can survive another day.
I remember I would go to the grocery store. I would buy a loaf of bread and a bottle of mustard, and that would be my lunches. And I'd get Louisiana sweet tea, and I had a big old jug, and basically I put it in the sun,
right,
and let it steep through the day.
Make some sun tea.
Mm-hmm. And then cans of green beans and tuna.
Yeah, I ate a lot of tuna in my days. Yeah, that's survival food, folks. If you don't know what it is.
Yes. So then I remember Trish and I would start talking. We started kind of just saying hello and things like that, and then we started dating. And then she asked me one night to come over for dinner, and so but we need to go by the grocery store first. Now this is a funny story. We still talk about this little story. So we got to the grocery store, and I forgot what she was getting ready to cook that night. But I remember she picked up a bag of chips, and she picked up a bag of Ruffles. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's like, she's my sugar mama. I mean,
sugar mama.
I mean, I was buying 25-cent chips,
right?
And she's going
she's
for Ruffles.
splurging.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I was like, so anyway.
And so that explains why you're in Texas and she's in Mexico right now. We know who the high roller is in that family.
Oh yeah.
You can kick me later, girl.
So we started dating, and then then we ended up moving together, and so we were together for a while, so I proposed to her, and the whole time I was at the dealer, I was still in going to the dealership world,
right?
I left that dealership and then went into a different one, and which gave me a little more structure. Mm-hmm. Where I was put into a situation where, here's a bay, here, do what you can. And so
survive the best you can.
Yeah,
good luck.
Yeah, and actually the technician beside me, he was the GM cars back then, they get stolen, and the way there's a certain way you steal them, and it was just, so we get these jobs, column theft jobs come in.
Right.
And so, being as I didn't have a lift, that's what I could do. But the technician beside me, that was his forte. That's a lot of work he did.
That's what he did.
So he went on vacation for 2 weeks or a week or something like that. Of course, then I started getting those jobs. Of course,
right.
That's when I made $610.
There you go. Got a raise. Got a little bump there.
But otherwise, there wasn't much structure there. They never sent me to class. They never sent me to school. Nothing. It was just trying to figure out. I remember pulling out Section 8A in the GM manuals and rolling them out and trying to understand, just going back to what I learned in school,
right?
Trying to learn how to diagnose these cars. So I ended up going to another dealership. I can't remember why. What happened? Oh, I don't remember why. But anyway, I get there, and where I was a line tech at the
right.
dealer, the one. I kind of took a step back and became an apprentice, at this other dealer. And so I was there as an apprentice, probably no more about 6 months. And while I was doing that, they put me with a drivability technician. They sent me to some of the GM schools. One of the schools was, I think, 3 weeks long, 4 hours a night for 4 nights a week.
Right.
And it was strategic based, gosh, it's been so long. Strategic-based diagnosis, I think is what it was. And it's where we went from atoms and electrons and different things all the way to...
They were explaining the fundamentals. They got some depth to it, didn't they?
Yep. And so when I came back from that training, then still worked as an apprentice for a little bit longer, it got to the point where I was doing everything for the tech. Yeah.
Have you told this story to the Jaded Mechanic podcast yet? Have you talked about this?
Mm-mm.
This is something you need, Jeff Compton. This story right here. This is the Jaded Mechanic coming out right here. He's telling you about some ups and downs at that dealership world that us independent guys weren't used to this stuff.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember it get to the point where the guy would, I mean, he was smoking cigarettes, and this is when you could smoke in shops.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if you still can anymore, not at least not mine. You know, but and then he would just sit there and he would just watch me, and I'd pull the cars in, diagnose them, fix them, and I was like, you know, I finally went to the service manager. Like, look, I'm ready to. Can you give me?
Let me
bay?
fix something.
Can you give me my own bay? And so he did. So he finally did, and I was very.
So you clawed and scratched and fought your way to where you are.
To a point, yeah. I mean, and I'm thankful for it.
Yeah.
Because when I so in Colorado, I missed North Carolina, and so
Yeah, it gets cold in Colorado, don't it?
Well, yeah, it does. It does.
And windy.
Well, it does. But the funny thing is that during the wintertime, yeah, people would pick on me because I was cold.
Right.
But when it was hot, when it's summertime, these guys be walking around with wet towels around their necks.
They're melting, they're dying.
And I'm like, man, it's like, this feels awesome. Yeah. It's like, it feels great.
The humidity level is perfect here.
Yeah. And so, I mean, they were obviously used to the cold, but I was used to the heat. And so I got picked on a little bit about that. And so I want to come back to North Carolina. Didn't really have a plan at all. But I remember asking Trish, you know, if she would marry me. I was like, but you got to come back to North Carolina. And
you put a stipulation to it. That's where you should have ran, girl. But she probably wanted the adventure.
Yeah. And so so we packed up a U-Haul and you know, she actually had a job before I did.
Oh, wow.
You know, moving, she was in the...
So you were moving back home to family, but she doesn't have family out there.
No, she does not.
But she got a job and landed it before you did.
She did.
Oh, my gosh. How awesome.
Yeah, she was her background was chemistry. So she, even, you know, I don't, you know, today you're so spoiled with, you know, picking up your phone and looking at, you know, how to find jobs, things. You know,
right.
I think back on those years and like, I don't remember how she did that. I don't remember. You know,
she probably went to a headhunter and probably gathered the information and boom, bada bing, bada bang.
I mean, it's like the day, you know, I mean, you know, I don't know if anybody knows what a Rand McNally map is.
Yes.
Yeah. So everybody knows GPS. And so how do we find jobs, you know, from different states back those years ago? I don't know. But anyway.
Oh, the internet had been invented for at least 10 years by then.
Well, I mean,
94, 95, the internet, what was 82, 84 is when it got to be really popular.
Well, I remember around 97, we were paying like, I don't know, we were paying for 30 minutes of internet.
Yes, we buy by the minute. I remember that. Yeah.
So we get to Charlotte, and of course I talking about Bojangles. That's the whole trip here, you know, on the way to Charlotte.
Talking it up.
I was like, we got to stop at Bojangles. She's like, all right, well, you fine. Please take me to a Bojangles. Yeah. And so we get in Charlotte. We stayed with my brother for a little bit.
Right.
And so we could kind of get our bearings, figure out what we're going to do. And so she ended up working for the wastewater treatment plant. Mm-hmm. And so I ended up getting a job with a Pontiac dealership in Charlotte.
Okay.
As one of the used car technicians. And so basically my job was to go to work between the service manager and the used car manager, which that was very interesting because both you got your service manager wants to make the money, used car manager wants to save the money, and you're put in between the two. Mm-hmm. And so I did that for a while, and then the used car market started really hitting around that time, and so they were buying more and more and more. They hired a couple of the used car guys, and so I became kind of a team lead with that. And so, but my passion was still back in the diagnosing, you know, used cars. It didn't really challenge me enough. And so
didn't fulfill your anxiety.
No, I mean, well, I
hate it when you don't have that adrenaline flowing and the passion going when you're working like that.
It gave me I was getting really frustrated between dealing with, you know, two egos.
Yeah.
Yeah, service manager and used car manager. And I'm going to tell you, both of them had to have big egos.
Jeff has got to have you on the JD Mechanic and go with this story. I don't want to take all of this out of here because this is just perfect what Jeff loves to share with other technicians. Your story needs to be on the jaded mechanic. That's for sure.
And it could be, but that was 20 years ago. I mean, I'm sure
It don't matter. It's still relevant. People are going through this crap still today. How do you get out of that? How do you move on? That's what we're sharing today.
So when I moved to when Trish and I moved to Charlotte, I went back around dealerships, put in resumes, and so even though I had been at the Pontiac dealership probably for over a year, I had to go home. My mom, she lived too far from the dealership, so every now and then I'd go to her house for lunch. And one day I happened to be there for lunch, and her phone rings, and she picks it up, and there's a guy asking for me. I'm like, you live here, and so I pick up the phone, and it's a service manager from a Chevrolet dealership that I applied to over a year ago. And so I got on the phone with them. They were looking for a drivability technician. And so I spoke to them, and they hired me on. Of course, I went back to the dealership, let them know, try to give my 2-week notice, and of course they say, nope, you're done.
Oh no,
which I mean, that's really common. And so, so I went to that GM dealership. They also immediately they started putting me through training. Immediately, I mean, all the
just threw all of it at you they could.
Yeah, I mean, they and I remember back in those days, you would take home the VCR tapes from GM.
I remember I took some of them home.
Yeah,
my buddy would bring them home, then he'd holler at me, "I got this," and I'd go over to his house and we'd watch it together. Yeah,
I mean, I would, and I remember, but this time we had our oldest son Travis. And so my wife and I, we'd be sitting in the living room floor, playing around with him a little bit, and we'd sit there, and my wife would be watching these videos with me. Yeah, and
learning how to fix them cars.
Yeah.
So when did you decide to go open up your own shop?
When I got bored.
When you got bored. We're talking about that boredness. Yeah. Has it fulfilled everything you thought it would?
And more. Yeah. It's so when I was at the dealer, I became, of course, we were a specialized shop.
Right.
So this all I did: electrical work, airbag work, check engine lights, did all stuff like that. And so it became monotonous. I could look at a repair order and know what was almost wrong with it.
Same thing all the time.
It was pattern failures. I had achieved my master ASC certification. I achieved GM master certified in 5 different categories. Never got my world class certification. But still.
World class certification?
Right. So in GM, just like ASC, you have.
Okay, for General Motors had the world class. I followed back to ASC, and I'm thinking, this is something new I don't know about, something I don't know about. Yeah, because it's General Motors world class certification.
So
it's like Ford's program.
Yeah, so when ASC only had 8 categories.
Right.
GM had 8 categories, but you would go to their training facility, and you would have basically a monitored exam.
Right.
And you're working on an actual vehicle. You got all your procedures, all the process and everything, and come up with a diagnosis on it. If you had a part sitting on the table or a solution, what was that down? You had to write it down, and it was timed.
Okay.
And so each category was just like ASC, and so I out of the 8, I got 5, and so I just never got to the 3 because by the time I decided to leave the dealership, and so but it just got to where I was bored, and then the last 2 years I was at the dealership, I started doing side work, and me and a buddy of mine,
the side hustle.
Well, I mean, it's like I needed it, and so a buddy of mine, he and I had rented a storage unit.
Yeah.
And I remember some of the vehicles, like the vans or trucks, we had to deflate the tires, push it aside because the doors were so low, or work out in the rain, or whatever it was. But that gave me the opportunity to, and we took in the worst stuff. Yeah, I mean, wherever we get our
didn't matter if it's nuts and bolts, you was working on it.
Yeah,
I remember them days. I used to do that when I first opened up. Hey, I'd tell Craig Hayes, buddy, it's just nuts and bolts. Let's fix it. Or I'd say, it's just a walk in the park. Let's do it. We were hungry back then. We were eating tuna fish.
Yeah. Wanted that Ruffles money.
Yeah, that's right. In fact,
we couldn't afford Ruffles.
So it got to a point where me and a buddy of mine, and actually his name was John as well, and we worked in this, I don't know, was it 10 by 20 storage unit? We did that
with a short roof.
With a short roof. We did that for 5 years, I think.
Yeah.
And initially it was like 7 days a week, and then I'd leave the dealership at 5:30. That I'd head to the shop, and we work on stuff there until sometimes 9, 10, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. So we had this electric grill that we used. We had a refrigerator put in there, brought a refrigerator, and so every 2 weeks we go to Aldi and spend a little bit of money for groceries
so you could eat and drink and keep working, keep pumping.
Yep. And all this while, my wife is at home with 2 kids. Yeah, and I'm sitting here doing this every night. Yeah, I wouldn't see my kids in the morning, and I wouldn't see them at night. Yeah, so it'd be dark. I leave at 6 in the morning, and sometimes I get home 1, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
I get about 4 hours of sleep. Sometimes I'd walk in the house, and there'd be a note on the stove. Dinner's.
Were you happy with the money you was making back then?
It wasn't about the money.
It's about the work. It was about the accomplishment, fixing something.
It was about growing. Yeah, and
was it about growing? Were you paying attention to where you were going? 5 years in a 20 by 10?
I always knew that I wanted to open my own shop. I always knew that. I really wanted to open my own dealership.
Right.
But I did play around a little bit of sales. Not getting into that. That was not me.
Were you making goals and making plans and steps of how to get to where you wanted to be back then? Or were you worried about fixing cars and wanting that?
Because that's probably more.
Because that's where I was. I had my own shop. I had my own business, but I was worried about fixing cars.
Mm-hmm.
I had the wants where I wanted to be, where I wanted to go.
Right.
But I had no clue how to get there. All I was doing was turning wrenches and wanting.
Well, that is probably the perfect assessment.
So a young mechanic, what I'm telling you, if you're new and you're trying to get in your business, set your goals and work toward your goal. Don't want that. Mm-hmm. Don't think about it all the time. Write it down. Make steps. If you can manage that goal and that distance, you can measure it and you can accomplish it a lot sooner than I did. I was 20 years into working, turning wrenches and stuff like that before I ever seen the goal and started writing down. And, a good friend of ours, Cecil Bullard, I went to a training class that he taught, and he's the one that taught me that. I just want to plug that in right there because you're coaching with him. I know you are right now, but he helped me in my younger days see so much more.
And you really couldn't put it any better. When I think back and think about the process of my train of thought back then, I mean, the money was helpful.
Oh, yeah.
But it was the desire of wanting to learn more.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, being in a specialized shop, I could only learn so much. And I'd kind of topped out.
Right.
And I couldn't do any more. But, looking back at when the first month that planning to open up the shop, I went through, creating an S corp, talked to a corporate attorney, talked to a CPA. I'm thinking I have everything that I need. I've got the plan. I got the plan. And so I remember when I finally opened up, I've written down, what I needed how I needed to make money.
Right.
And that was so far off. And
I'm going to laugh here a lot because I think I wrote the same thing down, and you were in North Carolina and I was in Texas, and I was so far off. I was so out of the ballpark. Mm-hmm. It's unreal.
And what year did you decide to open your shop?
2005.
Okay, 2005.
1987 for me, folks.
And then fast forward, because you were telling me about this when we were sitting down, you're now in a coaching group. When did you start getting into that?
So I started with, in December 2019, I went to ASTE, and I went through...
Which is ASTA now,
ASTE
folks.
now, yep. Old school ASTE.
Old school.
So,
I went to ASTE.
Yeah. So I went through a class with Rick White and with 180 Biz. And so I remember I'd taken my service advisor with me, and we both went in that class. And so as Rick is talking, man, I'm looking over at the time that service advisor's name was Ken. Like, Ken, did you talk to Rick before his class? Because I mean, Rick was hitting on points that we were going through. I'm like, he's like, no, I was going to ask you the same question. I'm like, there's just no way. I was like, this, he's hitting exactly what the issues we're running into. And so, in that moment, I'm thinking, okay, if this guy, like poof, he knows what my shop is doing. Like, man, you know what? Maybe it's a good idea that I can get some, feed or get some instruction, because from 2005 to 2019, I was kind of in my own bubble. And so the social media wasn't really out. I remember back you had MySpace.
Yeah.
MySpace. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, there was nothing about coaching. And so coming up through the industry, we had some Napa classes, some Ride classes, things like that. I think Parts Plus may have put on a advisor class, but as far as meeting people in the industry, that information just wasn't to me or available to me.
So for 14 years, it kind of seems like you were still turning that wrench.
I was. And so 2019, of course, then in 2020, COVID came through. Rick did a outstanding job on trying to coach us all through COVID and try to figure out things to do to make things happen. And so we made it. Also, we made it through it. And then I coached for Rick with Rick about 3 or so years, and then I took a break from Rick, and I went to a couple other coaching companies, kind of just kind of see what was different.
Sure.
Just trying to find out what the water's like.
Yeah. And then I went back to Rick a couple years later for a short amount of time, and nothing on Rick. Rick was an excellent coach. I love Rick. I love talking to him. He's wanting to scale and grow, and so there's nothing wrong with that. The history between he and I just didn't feel like I could coach with another coach, within his group. Because when I joined on with Rick, it was just he and I.
It was a one-on-one. Now it's a group coaching method.
Right, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all.
Nothing at all.
No.
And so I took a break from coaching for a while, and then I went to a class that Lucas put on in Boone. It's a leadership class with Michael Smith, and it was a 3A class.
Michael Smith, he's what a powerhouse. Man, so knowledgeable.
That training was on a completely different level.
It's strictly, totally 100% level. I've been to it myself here in Fort Worth. It's strictly, if you're an owner, you need to go to the Leadership Institute. It's just intensive. That's what they call it, Leadership Intensive.
Right. Yep.
It's all about you being a shop owner and being successful, making those plans, making those goals, and building your business to be better.
10 or 20 years ago, the things that get brought up in that class, you would never, ever, ever think about.
No, we were mechanics back in, trying to be business owners, but we hadn't changed our mentality at that point. We had the want to, we had the wish, but we didn't change the way we think. Until you change the way you think, and you think as a business owner, you don't think about what you learn in that program.
That's right. And with all this, there's a couple things that I do also want to mention. I've also had from 20, probably, there's one resource that I never tapped into that I've known for a long time.
Who?
Dutch. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Grandpa? Dutch Silverstein, folks. That's who we're talking about. If you don't know Dutch, you've missed a lifetime opportunity. Golly, the man will tell you the way it is. He won't sugarcoat it at all. And he's well respected in our industry, especially if you're on the East Coast. People all up and down the East Coast. If you want to read one of his articles, pick up your latest Ratchet Wrench program. It's online. It used to be a magazine we used to get, but I believe you pick it up. But he writes really good articles for Ratchet and Wrench.
Well, and the reason why I say it was untapped is that
he's right there.
He's right there. And not only that, but back 2010, 2011, I hired a technician that was friends with Dutch. And that was the first time I'd met Dutch. And I think the technician, his girlfriend worked as a service advisor for Dutch. I can't remember all the logistics on that. But anyway, Dutch and I, we had conversations back in 2010,
Oh,
2012, 2013, but I never, knew what he knows. I never once asked him for help. And I didn't know. For one, I didn't know to ask for help. I thought it was just fine.
Of course, yeah. I was there. I remember how that was in my life.
Yeah,
I would have sat in a classroom and listened to people talk, but I felt like I had it all under control, and I wouldn't ask for advice from people that are much smarter than me.
Mm-hmm. You get in your own world, you get in your bubble, and and it's just and so not until probably around 2019, maybe 2018, 2019, did the relationship between Dutch and I flourish a little bit more. We communicate a lot more, and he's been to my shop. He's done a couple of day visits with at the shop with us, and so when he retired, I was very honored that he put a video out that he sent his customers to me.
Yeah.
And, I can't. So anyway, I want to make sure I thank him publicly for that, because I do appreciate that.
I would. I'd brag all up and down the street for that one. That's probably the biggest honor we get in our industry. Another shop closing down and the guys retiring, everybody's going away, and they say, "Hey, take your vehicles to Compton Automotive." They're the people that we compare to.
Yeah, and I know he also mentioned Benji Burris.
Oh, I don't want to talk about Benji. I'm going to see him next week.
Yeah, and Benji's like an hour or so away from where Dutch was at. So
right.
I don't know if Benji, but even then, still, Benji's another great character.
Yeah, he is. Benji's been a heck of a resource for me. Mm-hmm. And Callie Grace, I love her to death. Her husband has moved here to San Angelo. He's serving for our country.
That's right.
So she's looking at coming to Texas too. So hopefully we can get some Texas implanted in Callie Grace, and that'd be awesome there. She'll never go back to Carolina. She'll stay out here in Texas forever, I hope.
Well, it'd give a good excuse for Benji to come out here.
Yeah, it really would. Yeah. So I'm excited about that.
So in a nutshell, that's kind of how I got from where I was to where I'm at now.
Where you're at now, you're coaching with the Institute right now.
That's correct. Yes, with Kent
Bullard.
Kent Bullard.
How awesome is that? I've known Kent for a long time, and Jesus, he's a great person.
He is. I was, when they paired me up with him, I was pretty excited about that. And so I never thought that I'd ever that I'd be coaching with him.
Have you been out to their facility in Ogden?
I have not. Really want to go.
Oh, dude, it's amazing what they've done to the place. I've been out there several times, and I've watched the transformation to where it is. The last time I was out there was for the Mars conference, okay? I think that's coming up in the later part of the year. I don't know exactly when it was, but it's usually held right around April or May, something like that.
Okay.
It seemed like it was right after Vision, if I remember right. So we've been up there several times for that. But that facility is freaking awesome. And they got an event coming up. You're going to have to go to Ogden for this program. All right. And the first picture, I come up with my buddy Jimmy Lee. And and we're me and Todd are talking about Jimmy Lee the other day. He said, the crazy guy. And so your name in my phone now is Crazy Guy, Jimmy.
and by the way, Jimmy, if you watch this, I told him about the interview you and I had. I said, you were the best person to interview me that I've ever had before.
Yeah, he did. He talked about you knew all the right questions. So I've got a hell of a bar to step up to here. I'm doing my best, Jimmy. So it is what it is. You know me. You know how wild I am. But in 2026, April the 22nd through the 23rd to the 24th, okay, in Ogden, Utah, they're talking about the financial intensive training program. Okay, folks, I want to tell you about this. It's something I want to go to. I think it's going to be great. The financial intensive is a focused 2-day in-person workshop for shop owners. And me and you've been talking about some of the things that are bothering us and what we've been going through. And when I seen this on Facebook this morning, I said, oh my gosh, this is something me and Todd need to attend. You'll learn how to read and interpret the strategic use of your numbers through your P&L stuff, okay? Make smarter decisions. You'll fuel growth. You'll take, I'm sure they're talking about looking at goals and reaching goals and how to accomplish them. There goes my mic. Yeah. You'll cut that out, right? It's going to stay in there, them bloopers. You know, folks, the Institute for Automotive Business Excellence. I've known it all my life as the Institute. I'm adding those other words, getting better. I picked this linear up at some event they sponsor, and I have my company name on it. And I wear this proudly. And my buddy Kent sent me a backpack that has the Institute. I love wearing that son of a gun all over because I have people asking me, what is that about? And it gives me a chance to talk the Institute up. I love that.
Well, and I will say something about this, and I don't know if Lucas had a part in this but one of his most recent videos he did talked about cash flow.
Uh-huh.
And so that, I'm telling you, the shop owners that are struggling or whatever, knowing those numbers are just so important. I get the daily grind. You're fixing cars, taking care of customers, all that kind of stuff. And at the end of the day, sometimes you just don't know where your money's gone.
You don't know.
Yeah. And so I had that question so many times when I talked to my CPA. It's like, okay, well, it shows like I have net profit, but why it's not in my bank? No one can ever explain that to me. So, but this, I'm sure it will teach you where it's going with that.
This is going to show us and going to get you there. I'm excited to get us signed up for this so we can take off. I'm going to try to call Michael Gunther, old Big Bird, because he has this same problem right here, and I know he does. See if we all three can't get up there for this program.
Utah's a beautiful place.
But we got to go a day or two early, and we got to go see my buddy, old Adam Arndt, okay? And get him to take us up in the mountains and across the mountain over by that lake. That was a heck of a ride. A lot of fun over there. So being that we're going up there in April, it won't be hot.
Oh.
So we'll be able to use the heater in that ATV.
So coming up from military where there's structure to a dealership where really no structure, sounds like they kind of didn't give you any type of support or direction, to a dealership that frankly gave a shit and helped you out, gave you some knowledge, some steps, to going to your own kind of side hustle, we'll call it. You were 7 days a week opening this short garage door shop. How much of what you've learned in discipline and training in the military translates now into your business?
So I will say my military time was not the most structured.
Okay.
So I struggled. When I was in the military. Okay. So I wasn't, when I went in there, I wasn't ready. I just wasn't. I was too stupid at the time.
You say stupid. Stupid people can't learn. Ignorant.
Right.
You were ignorant, okay? Because you can learn. You got taught. You got educated, and you adapted and overcome. But stupid people, stupid things never can advance.
Right. Well, so to answer your question, I don't regret going because it's made me who I am.
Sure.
But as far as structure, I think even when I came out, I was still really unstructured.
Okay.
And so now even the dealership, so nothing really prepared me to become a shop owner. The structure, I'm gonna say, I really don't think that I had that much of my life. I don't feel like I had that it was on purpose structure.
Okay.
And so I think it was routine. I think it's just routines, and so the dealership, there wasn't structure. I mean, there was procedures.
Sure.
And so there was procedures and there was consequences. And so when but they trained us, and that's what they expected from us, is to try to learn and be the best that we could. And they were strict. And so I guess to a point there was some structure there. And so some of those things I think may have come into the shop that I'm in now, but I'm also I'm not. I guess I'm more passive.
Okay.
When it comes to my employees, I think sometimes I kind of feel like if I'm paying a professional to do something, they need to act professional and do things professional. They shouldn't have to be handheld. Now, that's also a fault, because if I don't, and that's something I'm working on now, is internally is the structure for myself and to help more structure for the shop. Now, I'm not saying my shop is like run all amok and and we're not doing well and things like that. The people there are smart. They're they know what needs to be done, and they want to make a living. And I don't think someone like Dutch would have referred work to me if we weren't somewhat structured, somewhat anyway.
Right.
Yeah, it has certain things in place. But they're not handwritten down. They're almost just and my interview process. I really work really hard on my interview process. Try to make sure the right people fit.
Sure.
And,
It's important that somebody fits in your team versus just letting anybody in there.
Yeah.
I don't hire fast.
I have, and I've regretted it. Yeah. So back to the structure. One thing I want to add. So my wife, she came out of the chemistry side and she went into hospitality, and so she opened and worked for Ritz-Carlton for 10 years. Now you're probably talking about one of the most structured places out there.
Right.
That's Ritz-Carlton. And so she since left and she's teaching. But when I talk about issues that I have at my shop, and she talks about issues or how Ritz-Carlton will handle things, I have a hard time distinguishing between, do I want to become that corporate person or do I still want to be, my independent shop and who I am? And so that has caused arguments between my wife and I, because she is so structured and I'm not. And she feels like businesses should be run this with not necessarily an iron fist, but I mean, to the second, to the minute, I mean, bam, 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 where I'm like, hey guys, let's, we have a job to do. We need to take care of this, let's get it done. So, let's do it. And so, even some of the consequences, like, for instance, we had a snow day, and my wife is like, well, I don't get paid for snow day. I was like, well, I'm paying my employees. Well, that would never happen at Ritz-Carlton. That would never happen. Like, well, it's corporate. Yeah. I don't want to go corporate. Yeah. So there's got to be a fine balance between structure and being independent and being who you are. And so I'm still trying to figure that out. Even after 20 years, I'm still trying to figure that out.
Well, and you'll never figure it out. I'll clear this up in the air right now. It's constantly changing. It's constantly evolving. There's some basic things that never change. But when you get past the basic and you're trying to do the advancement, it's always going to be changing. It's always going to be moving. You're going to have failure. You're going to have wins. And one of the things I don't like to say failures is you have learning experiences and then you have wins. Okay. So all of that's constantly changing. It's like the sands of the desert. It's the desert, baby. It's got sand in it.
Right.
When the wind goes a blowing, the sand's going to be changing. It's going to be moving. But at the end of the day, we're still going to be in the desert. And there's nothing the matter with the desert. If you live there, you can be very successful there.
That's right.
So let's move to the forest. The wind's going to blow the trees down and the new trees are going to grow up. It's going to change, but it's still the same. It's the forest. So when you talk about corporate America, you're talking about lots of employees.
Right.
The structure you have to have when you have 100 to 300 to 1,000 or 10 million employees is totally different than when you have 4 or 5 employees to 10 employees. Okay? You're in contact with them as the leader and the owner of the business. And you're leading by example, and you're leading from behind, I hope. Okay?
Yeah, right.
You know that if they fail, it's because you didn't do something right. So Trish, I love your analogy and what you want to do with the corporate world. I do. I really do. That's
she's
great.
out of it. She wants to be out of it. So
but it won't apply to us other than, we're a business and it looks like a business, but it's a different business, just a different block of the neighborhood. I could never take Firm Automotive and put it into the corporate world. I don't have enough employees for that. But yes, I do a lot of practice that the corporate world does. You have your opening and close time. You have your beginning and your team huddles before and after. I do a lot of things the corporate does, but I'm nowhere near the corporate world. I don't want to be there.
No.
Like you.
Yeah. So that's so I guess when I think of structure, I think of more corporate. And
that's what I do. I think the same way.
And maybe we are structured.
And my business, that's all we deal with is the corporate world.
Yeah.
We have all these big fleets we do business with. So I'm quite familiar with the corporate world and what they want and what they require. And I try to deliver what they want and what they require. Okay. But it's not a world that I want to live in.
No.
I'm processing what y'all are saying coming from the corporate world, because I'm more on the side of like your wife. I'm like,
She's in the corporate world.
You're right.
consequences, procedures, because if something fails, was it because our system's messed up, or was it because the system wasn't being followed? So I'm
And I want to argue that point.
Oh, yeah?
Was it because the leader didn't do something to make the systems work right? Or was the leader not being responsible?
Sure.
Because when it gets down to it, it's the leader that it should fall back on.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people say shit rolls downhill, but
The leader should be downhill.
well, that's what I'm saying. In business, if something fails, ultimately it's because it failed from the top.
I didn't supply the right tools. I didn't supply the right training. I didn't put the right person to do the right job. I didn't set the expectation up. It's something that I did.
But when you have systems in place that are proven in that work, that happens less often.
Yes.
Systems. That's where I'm.
I got you. And so, well, and that kind of circles back to Michael Smith. And one reason why I went back, I started working with Kent.
Leadership intensive is what he trains.
Correct. And so when I went to that 3A class, I realized the potential that I could have as far as the procedures and policies and things, the SOPs. I mean, again, acronyms you would never even think about. Give me a 10 millimeter, not an SOP.
I love me some SOPs.
Yeah. And so I knew that's where I needed help at.
Mm-hmm.
How big was your book when you left his class? I mean, it started out like that,
well,
that thick, but is it like that now?
Oh, they gave us the whole thing at one time. It's like 3-4. Yeah,
It's 3 days worth of training about this stuff, folks. It's not a half hour or 4 hours or 8. 3 solid days. You don't leave. They have lunch brought in for you.
Oh, it's intense. It is. And one time going to that class is not enough.
No. You won't. You can't absorb it. You can't get it all in. There's
Do you watch your favorite movie only
that's why
once?
there's so much in that book, so you can refer back to that book a lot.
Yeah. I keep going back to the truth tape. Yeah.
And
so, and how it can be manipulated. And so that's all. I mean, again, you think about automotive history, you think about how your mind can manipulate things from memories, and this is automotive training. Yeah, it is. Part of it. It's like you just never think about that.
I think I need to meet your wife, especially if she's.
Well, you'd have to go to Mexico this week.
We'll put it on the company card.
There you go. Might as well. I got a letter from PayPal this morning, and it said PayPal. And I said, why is PayPal? And I picked it up, and there was a credit card in it. And I said, why are they sending me a credit card? And I opened it up, and some proposition, somebody loaned me some money or something like that. But they use PayPal's logo on the envelope. I said, oh my gosh, the things that people are doing nowadays. Shady things. Why didn't you just lay it out front? I thought you got a credit card on a PayPal account. I said, oh my gosh, you're going to spend the money. Watch out, people.
No, I don't have Ruffles money. I'm not getting no PayPal credit card.
Look out, tuna fish section.
Yeah.
Hey, y'all, but I'll tell you about our buddy Rick White. He's coming to Texas, and it'll be here in DFW March the 22nd. 21st, DFW. Hey, folks, if you want to go to a business coaching class here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, give me a shout. I'd love to get you into this class and hook you up for, I'll do this one pro bono. If you want to come to Rick White's class, you reach out to me personally, and I'll make sure you're in there. I promise you that. But by golly, we're going to have some good time. He's coming a little early. We're going to sit on the front porch, and you're going to learn about the front porch tomorrow. We're going to have our front porch session tomorrow.
All right.
And I've had front porch with Mike Clary at my house. Jesse up there in Kansas, he come down there. Michael Gunther's been on the front porch with me. And I really would like to start doing some of these podcasts on my front porch because it's famous. Rick White's been on my front porch, Oh, there goes the table. I got to watch the cord down there. But folks, I look forward to seeing y'all. Texas two-step training the whole last week of March right here in Texas. We're starting in Dallas-Fort Worth, Austin, San Antonio, and wrap it up in Houston. And we got Coralie coming to talk about service writing classes, teaching you about that. We got Mike Clary going to be here talking about the 674 diesel, teaching you from the basics all the way up to drivability concerns. And of course, my good friend and my business coach, Rick White, 180 Biz, he will be here in all 4 cities too.
Perfect. Well, looks like the battery's about to die.
There we go. That's what the red light's about.
Yeah. Yeah. Any final questions, thoughts? It was also very nice to meet you. I'm glad John brought you along. And did y'all actually end up shooting anything yesterday?
Yeah, we shot a big old boar.
Yeah, we heard the thump, but it didn't drop.
Okay.
We was a long ways away. It's like he got hit 3 times.
Gotcha.
You could hear it. It's that far away. It took 2 seconds to hear the report of the impact of the bullet. Okay, so he's damn near over 150 yards. Really easy.
Guess you got to stay a few more days. Try again.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you have any questions for us, definitely feel free to reach out. Again, this is Mileage May Vary. And John, any last words for the people?
Say again?
Any last words for the people?
Hey, folks, be cool. Hey, want to tell you one more thing. I love to tell everybody, don't forget to put the money in the cash register, throw it in the bank. Always count your cha-chings, baby. That's your wins.
There we go. That's what I was looking for. Thanks again for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, folks.
Hey, you're not running this shop alone, and we want to hear your voice in this community. Got a story, a challenge, a question you want us to tackle? Scan the QR code or hit the link in the notes and send it our way. You might just hear it on a future episode.